I am so excited to start this crazy, beautiful adventure and marriage together with you.
Sherman was hopeful when he joined Married at First Sight Season 10 and kicked off the 8-week marital experiment. Unfortunately, his story didn't exactly have a fairy tale ending, at least not on the show. Today we caught up with Derek to talk about the show, his new life, and so much more. So I wanted to chat about Married at First Sight first. And I was
Okay.
actually watching some of the old episodes today, and I don't know why I find them so funny now. Like I was cracking up. Do you rewatch the episodes?
So I personally do not. Every so often I'll be sent like snippets and stuff of the episode, but reliving it and then watching it once was enough for me for a lifetime.
I was watching it today and watching it when it was playing. I found no humor in it because you get so caught up in it. And today I was just cracking up. I don't know what to do. But tell me how and why you joined the show, first of all.
So to be honest, I never heard of the show before. They reached out to me on like some Instagram post that geotagged out in DC and it's like, hey, we're doing a TV show out in DC. Let us know if you're interested. And I'm like, huh. So after a couple days, I gave him a call, and there's like every season's a new city. This 10th season will be DC. It's all Married at First Sight. I'm like, is this a Christmas special? She's like, no. And then she goes into the details of like the premise of the show. You have these unbiased experts that match you with your perfect person. There's built-in prenups. They pay for the divorce, they pay for the honeymoon, and they pay for the living expenses throughout it all. So at the end of the day, I was like, all right. Worst comes to worst, I walk out with a crazy story. Best comes to best, I meet the love of my life. And one of the other reasons why I decided to do it is because at the time I was going on, it's easy enough to go on a couple first dates here and there, but it was really hard finding someone I wanted to go on multiple dates with, to keep seeing. And so this was right around at the same time. I was like, you know what, maybe this is fate. I was having these thoughts already, so let's drink the Kool-Aid, see what happens, and go from there.
When you told your family that you were joining this show, what was their reaction?
So I didn't think it would actually happen, to be honest, throughout the entirety of me like applying and going through the next round to the next round. And then it's like 2-3 weeks before the weddings, and I haven't gotten confirmed yet, but like in 3 weeks would be when I was marrying a stranger. And I'm like, I should probably let my family know I did a thing.
Probably.
Yeah. So I told my dad, and my dad was like, I do not understand why the F you would do that. But you know what? Do you? Okay, I'll support you. Makes no sense. And when I told my mother, bless her soul, but I have never heard her curse more in Spanish in my entire life. I had to like give her a giant bear hug for like 30 minutes so she would finally process the words coming out of my mouth. So it was definitely a little unexpected, and I think my mom took it the hardest, but she adapted. Everyone did. They realized that I really wanted to do it, and it looked like it was, and I was going to do it. And it's funny because after I confirmed it with my dad, I was like, no, I was actually selected. He's like, what the F is wrong with you? Are you kidding me? I was like, Dad, I thought you supported me. I didn't think you'd actually get selected.
Go through with it. That's funny. What were your expectations going in? So you're told, by the way, normally when we're watching, it's like you guys are told on camera that you're chosen. Did you know before the cameras?
So they told us 2 weeks ahead of time that we're being selected because, we got to bring family. Like my mom lived in Uruguay at the time. So she just moved there like 2 weeks before the wedding. So she's just unpacked, and I had the show like fly her back to the States because I'm marrying a stranger. So I had to give my family a little bit of head's notice. And then they filmed like the bachelor party and a couple other little things, and you telling your family. So they have us all like 1 or 2 episodes before the actual wedding. And then we had the wedding, and the first time I saw her was when she walked down the aisle.
What did you ask the experts for, and what did you get or didn't get?
I remember one of the most intimidating things with applying was like the second to last round, they had you fill out this like 300 question online questionnaire.
You did
and
not say 300.
300 questions. And so I'm looking at this thing, and some of these questions like, what are your top 5 values? What do you think is your top 10 qualities in a person? I'm like, okay, what's the definition of a value? What's the definition of a quality? Because these are all vague terms. What are you looking for here? And so I spent about 5 hours doing this questionnaire because I figured it was the most, if I answered any question incorrectly and like not true to myself, they'd match me with someone wrong. So I honestly tried to make it as accurate as possible. And some of the main things I was asking for is, someone that's spontaneous, that can find the humor in little things, someone that's innately kind, treats others the way they want to be treated, someone who's down for an adventure, that would support me and what I want to do, and I can support them and their dreams. Someone to be my biggest fan so I can be their biggest fan. It's kind of like the general gist of the things I was asking for. And in regards to what I got, we had a brief conversation where we kind of compared some of our answers on this questionnaire, and for the most part we were fairly similar, with like political views, religious views, long-term family goals and all that stuff. So a lot of the core things were there, but they were still missing some core things because, as you may have noticed from the show, I didn't get a lot of support with anything I kind of wanted to achieve, whether it's my dreams or just a random trip, kind of making the most out of life. Because to me, this might sound a little cheesy, but the definition of life is to experience life. So however silly they may be, or however random it might be, I want to take a chance and try to experience those things. And to me, that was a big part of what I wanted. And I specifically said someone that, help me with my dreams and I can help them with theirs. And unfortunately, while everything else may have been fairly true, that was the one thing that just was the opposite. And so that was a pretty big thing to try to work through.
I think, to me, it seems like you were more of a spontaneous person and she was more of like a planner, like planning maybe 20 years down the line, and you're just like, more.
Yeah, I like, so like anytime I go on a trip, I make an abstract itinerary. It's like, all right, here's a list of things we could do today, and here's where we're sleeping.
Right.
So like, I know what I can do, and I know where I'm going to end up. Everything in between, I'm going to figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
And I kind of take that approach a little bit to life, because otherwise you might miss out on some of the random things that make it worth it.
It's the wedding day. You're standing up there nervously, I assume. And you see your wife. What is going through your head at that point? So,
to be entirely honest here, my dad, when I told him about the show, he started doing a bunch of research, started watching he's still watching the show now with the new seasons. He's gotten addicted to it. But he told me, Derek, I don't care what she looks like when she walks down that aisle. You better smile, because America's not looking at her. They're looking at you. And that was like the one piece of advice that he told me. I was like, okay, no matter what, I need to smile. And I was like really hoping for someone to knock me off my feet. And going into this, I also told myself, while looks are important, they're not everything, because maybe I've been looking for the wrong things in a person. Let's have these experts match me with this personality stuff. So I actually had a lot of expectations going into this. I smiled like my dad told me, but there was a solid like 2/3 of that smile that was very genuine. Where I'm like, okay, so this is the person that I've met, that is supposedly my perfect person. So if anything, I was nervous and excited and curious as to what the future would hold, to be honest.
The reception, was that awkward?
It was a little bit, but to be honest, I barely got to experience the reception, because right after the wedding, they pulled us away for personal one-on-one interviews and some photos and stuff. So it was almost 2 hours later where I finally meet up with the family and everyone else, like, hey, we're back. Let's get the dancing and have some food. So it was a little awkward because of that. And then you had meeting all the family members, meeting her father, her family, trying not to embarrass myself too much when I'm dancing up there. And
all right, so you're married. And now it's the honeymoon. What's that experience like? You're on a honeymoon with a stranger.
I am. And I think that was one of the hardest things really going about with this entire process, is trying to balance impressing someone with like a first date kind of stuff, like you just met them, but also acting like you're married. And it's just like this weird dynamic and polar kind of position you're in of like what is right and what is wrong. If I get too comfy, it's a little odd, but I need to be more than just a first date kind of thing. So this was very weird, you know, walking that line and trying to make it work. And I think for like the first half it was very nice, but after the second half of the honeymoon, like I could easily tell some things were kind of falling apart, were becoming a little bit more estranged. And I'm like, okay. And throughout this, I saw like a couple little red flags here and there. But for me, I told myself I'm gonna ignore all the red flags because again, maybe I've been looking for the wrong things. I'm doing this because she's my perfect person.
Right, because you trust in the experts. So. Yeah.
So I drank the Kool-Aid, but it was very nice. I've never been to Panama. It was nice doing it with some of the other couples because having that interaction of other people going through the same situation as you was kind of a reassurance.
Yeah.
So that was a nice touch for that.
You know, when did it, after honeymoon, you're back home, and this is when you guys move into a space together, right? Immediately after the honeymoon.
Technically a day after the honeymoon because they had to get the apartment ready, but yes.
Right. But when you guys got back, it seems you guys were a little smooth for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yes, that's what it felt like. We're still, it was just new. So we were on riding the whole new kind of experience train, if you will, of unpacking, organizing our place, trying to figure out the schedule that we have with the camera people and our own personal time and work and everything. And so when we finally have enough time to start interacting with each other on a more like deeper level, once we start getting past all the excitement, we started to have some real conversations. And that's when we started realizing that maybe everything isn't necessarily perfect.
What was that one thing that made you say, I don't think this is gonna work? What was that one thing that happened?
There were a couple little things with, like you mentioned earlier, being very like type A oriented, kind of judgments to some other people around me. And the biggest thing I think really came from, there was one point in time, because to me, you know, helping some, my dreams are important, but so are their dreams, are just as important. So at one time at dinner, it was just like a dinner at the house. And I asked her, it's like, okay, so what are some of the things you want to achieve in life? And like, these are mental notes for me, just like, all right, what can I do as like surprises or like to help them with this throughout this whole process? And so it came down to just like, well, you know, I want a family. It's like, okay, same. I want a home. I'm like, okay, perfect. And a job where I feel comfortable. I'm like, that's all perfect. I'm with you 100%, but what about something else? Something that defines you, a little unique, you know, a characteristic, something a little crazy. And she's like, no, nothing really too much. So I was like, okay. So at that point in time, I was like, so it feels like they are, I wouldn't say settling for life, but they're not really passionate about achieving much more, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But so I didn't think too much about it. And then I followed that conversation up again during the 1 month that we had, and it's like, all right, we're now in a nice setting, let's talk about this a little bit more. And it's still the same responses, like, okay, well, let me ease this up a little bit by saying some of my weird things, like, you know, I want to travel the world, want to skydive, I want to build a tree house with my kids, I want to write. I'm like, what else is crazy to get her out of her comfort zone, to say something a little embarrassing, like I want to write a Christmas song, and a couple of things like that to get her out of her comfort zone, to be open. And then I got nothing from that other than a little bit of judgment. I'm like, huh.
That's the clip I watched today, and I was cracking up because you were just so excited as you listed off your things.
Yeah, I'm still excited.
You were just so excited, and she, like, the look on her face, she was like horrified. I mean, and also speaking of that, I'm gonna do a game, because all the things that you listed, I wrote them down, and I want to see if you've ticked any one of these dreams off of your list. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, have you built your tree house?
No, waiting on a family for that one. So some of these are long term.
The tree house is for the kids. All right, that's fair. You wanted to do a backpacking trip or trips. Have you done that?
I backpacked across Iceland.
Okay, nice.
So that was a beautiful trip. I only recommend doing that in the summertime. But I do have another goal of hiking down the Patagonia and like Chile and Peru and stuff. Just holding off a little bit because COVID kind of put the damper in that, and then life afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. So we're taking one thing off. You said you wanted to skydive over the tropics. Have you done that?
I have skydived in Virginia. I have not done it over the tropics yet.
Okay, you can come here. I'm in the tropics. I'm in Jamaica. So you can come skydive right over my house if you want.
I may take you up on that.
Have you written a book yet? You had that on your list.
I do. I am in the process. So like my goal is to write actually a series of books.
Okay.
Like all fiction kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I've already essentially written the first book. It's not like 100% done, but I kind of want to do a rough draft of all of them because I want the smallest of details and like the first one to have the biggest of impacts in the last. So that one I'm in the process of. It might take a couple more years.
Can you give us a little, what is it about really?
Let's say it's based off of like this dream I had when I was a kid. And it was such a wild dream that I actually stayed in bed for like another 6 hours afterwards. Like 4 p.m. my mom finally grabbed me out of my room. And I thought it was such a wild dream. It's like in a world, it's entirely fiction, like magic and all that stuff. My inner nerd coming out. But essentially in a world where magic once was popular, no more, it's all in the ruins, but there's other things in the background, and we'll go from there.
Okay. And is it for kids? Is it for adults? What's your...
I would say I'm tailoring this one for adults.
I get you. I'm there with you.
And so there may be some dark themes and other things like that, because the world.
Okay.
But
So, here's my other one. Have you written your Christmas song? You have a few months if you haven't yet.
this is one of the things I've always been asked the most about. And when I originally envisioned this, I did plan on having it within the next 5 years was my original goal. Because I wanted like maybe to be in love, to have a little bit more inspirations and maybe some kids to assist me with this. And because of the amount of support that I've gotten from this thing, I actually have started writing it. Done a little bit of composing for it, but nowhere near done. It's kind of just a side project of when I have inspiration, I start adding to it. Because it's one of those things, I don't want to rush. I'm doing this one for me. As much as I want to give it out to the world this Christmas, to me, this is a special one. So I'm going to take my time with it.
Okay, we're ticking things off.
Progress is being made, that I promise.
Yes, I love that. By the way, you wanted to be in love, and I've been scrolling through Instagram.
Yes.
I see that you're now dating somebody. Tell me about your new romance.
It's funny because I actually met her because she slid into my DMs. She messaged me on Instagram. And it's like, hey, I live out in DC, want to go for a drink? Very brief and to the point. I'm like, okay. And then I looked at her profile. I'm like, sure, yeah, let's go. And that was about 7 months ago.
Okay.
So we're now dating and never been happier.
Oh, awesome. We love that.
It's actually going very, very well. I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Happy ending. Look at that.
It all worked out for a reason. That's what it came from this.
It all worked out for a reason. I love it. By the way, do you keep in contact with any of your former castmates?
Not so much over the years. I used to be in touch with like Jessica and Austin, a bit of Mika and some other things, but not too much otherwise.
Since we last saw you, what else has changed in your life?
Let's see. I got a new job. I'm very happy with that one. I'm living closer in DC right now, actually just across the river from it. And other than that, got a girlfriend and just living life. Nothing too crazy right now. Every year or two, I try to do a nice fun adventure. Next year, I think I'm going to Switzerland and Prague. So updates to come on that note.
Well, that's a great place to end it, Derek. It was so much fun chatting with you.
And you as well. Thank you very much.